Everything's good, baby, up here with you.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.
You heard about how Diddy mom came out defending him? She made a comment saying that Diddy is not a monster.
Yeah, he not a monster. She is. But I don't want to go there. But she is. She's the fucking monster. Everything in her fucking name. She's the monster. She created that, and y'all gonna see on that Netflix.
The courtroom doors groaned like they'd been holding their breath for a century. Reporters fumbled to switch their phones from standby to record. And somewhere in the back, a ballpoint hit the floor, clicking louder than a gavel. 83-year-old Janice Comm, a grandmother in orthopedic shoes and a tweed jacket 2 sizes too warm for June, tapped her cane once, twice, and the room froze. No entourage, no publicist, no diamond brooch whispering, "Celebrity mom." Just the quiet creak of a woman who had decided that silence cost more than truth. Why would a mother risk torching the empire her son spent 30 years building? Keep that question in your back pocket, because the answer, hidden in the tremor of her voice, is the spark that sent one of hip-hop's brightest stars stumbling toward the edge of a cliff he swore he could never slip from. But first, how did we get here? Little Sean, charisma in the crib. Every family has that one kid who turns breakfast into a talent show. In the Comm household on a Sunday in '75, it was toddler Sean puffing out his chest, lip-syncing soul classics with a spoon for a mic and his diaper sagging like low-slung denim. Relatives cracked up, neighbors poked heads through the open screen door. Aunt Denise threw a dollar bill into the cereal bowl like it was Times Square on New Year's. By kindergarten, he'd upgraded from cereal bowl tips to class president votes. Teachers said he could sell sand in the desert. Principal Hughes recalled catching 5-year-old Sean persuading 3rd graders to carry his backpack as practice for their future hustle. Janice told that story with half pride, half worry, because even back then, her boy's charm walked hand in hand with a hunger for control. At 12, he was stitching mixtapes off his dad's jazz collection, calling them compositions by Comm. At 16, he'd convinced a local DJ to let him host weekend block parties, the first time a minor ever owned the crowd on that corner. The kid's grin could bend rules. His will could snap them. Dominate the room, and the room writes your legend.
But domination has a shelf life, and the expiration date usually arrives the minute real money starts talking. Next up, the decade that taught Sean how fame feels when there's no speed limit. Skyrocket era, bad boy, bling, and boundaries blurred. Cue the fast lane montage. 1994, Notorious B.I.G. drops. Ready to Die. 1997, 70,000 fans sing along to I'll Be Missing You while white doves rise over a stadium. 2001, 2 Bentleys, 3 Grammys, 4 magazine covers. New Year's Eve. 2002, Miami Beach. Sean, now Diddy, welcomes 2,500 guests to an all-white party so bright it forces the moon to play second fiddle. The invitation simply read, "Dress like heaven if you want to get in." Inside that heavenly glow, lines blurred fast. Contracts got pitched at 3 a.m. over crystal goblets. Boundary-pushing strategy sessions spilled into dawn rituals that industry insiders still won't describe on record. One exec whispered that Diddy's golden rule was, if the door is locked, find the owner. If the owner objects, buy the building. When No Way Out went 7 times platinum, he quoted Sinatra but lived like Caligula. Private islands, walk-in closets bigger than starter homes, after parties that made Vegas blush. Lawyers became as essential as lighting techs because success attracts both photocopiers and subpoenas. Glory can blind a man into thinking day never ends, yet even perpetual parties can't drown out the rumble of a storm that's been loading its clouds for years. And the first thunderclap rang out on a frigid December night. Warning flashes. Nights that refused to stay in Vegas. December 27, 1999. Club New York. The bottle service crowd barely notices the argument at table 26 until glass shatters. 2 shots rip the baseline. Diddy and his then-girlfriend bolt. A Manhattan DA calls it a swirl of champagne, chaos, and flying cashmere. In the end, he walks. Not guilty, but the first crack in the invincible armor is visible. Leaked voicemails emerge in 2005, Diddy, mid-rage, cursing out an assistant for confusing Fiji with Evian. Tabloids censor the tirade to 3 dots and a paywall, but the damage sticks. A choreographer quits mid-tour.
claiming a climate of fear and random volcanoes. Staffers sign thicker NDAs, bodyguards circle tighter. Janice keeps calling. The calls land at 2 a.m. She says, "Baby, you're drifting." He laughs it off. "Mom, I'm untouchable. Because when you believe gravity is a rumor, you don't watch your footing, you watch your followers." Somewhere between the Grammys and the global vodka sponsorship, anger found a seat at his table and refused to leave. And that set the stage for a decade of whispers that grew into shouted accusations and cascading claims, from Cassie to the 2024 federal raids. November 2023. Singer Cassie files a bombshell civil suit alleging years of coercion. Headlines stamp the words, "settled in a day," but the speed only fuels suspicion. Meanwhile, ex-producers hint at secret agreements exchanged for silence, and a former intern tweets about locked red light parties where phones were surrendered at the door. February 2024, sunrise. Federal agents raid twin mansions in LA and Miami. Drones capture closets emptied into cardboard evidence boxes. Social media lights up like Times Square. Hashtag Diddy raid rockets to trend #1 worldwide. Stock in Revolt Media plunges 14% by lunch. His inner circle shrinks to 3. A crisis PR pitbull, a veteran defense attorney, and the mother who taught him to pray before bed. The world wanted answers, prosecutors wanted blood, and in the middle of that maelstrom stood Janice, weighing a choice that no contract, no NDA, no platinum plaque could silence. The mother's crossroads, heartbreak versus duty. For months, she'd stood guard at the boundary between maternal love and moral conviction. Each court filing pounded like a drumbeat. Family group chats fractured, half siding with "protect Sean, we know his heart," half pleading "let truth breathe or it'll suffocate all of us." Counselors warned her, "testify and you might end your son's empire." Pastors countered, "stay silent and you might end his soul." Her Bible sat open on Psalm 139. "Search me and know my heart." She underlined it twice. The night before the hearing, she stared at Sean's first platinum record hanging above her mantel. The silver discs flashed back the silhouette of a weary grandmother and whispered a single, awful question. What if love sometimes means lighting the fuse that blows apart the lie? At dawn, she chose. She pressed a palm to the plaque, whispered a goodbye only the walls heard, and called the DA. And that phone call rearranged the next day's docket. Just like that, the Queen Mother was stepping onto the chessboard. Courtroom shockwaves, every eye on Janice. Wednesday, May 14, 2025, 9:37 a.m. The bailiff announces, "Witness Comm Janice." From the gallery comes a collective inhale so deep it seems to pull the curtains inward. Janice steadies herself, cane clicking. She doesn't look at the press. She doesn't look at Diddy until she's sworn in. Then their eyes lock. Mother to son, general to fallen soldier. Lead prosecutor begins softly. "Mrs. Comm, in your words, when did you first notice a change?" Her voice wavers, then firms. "The night he told me rules were for people who need them." Pens scratch. Twitter threads bloom in real time. She recounts explosive mood swings. Staff fired for misplacing shoes. Producers benched for disagreeing on a beat. Partners frozen out for asking simple questions. She mentions a quote Sean supposedly repeated. "If God made me this big, who's small enough to stop me?" Defense objects. Hearsay, tone, relevance. Judge overrules. Diddy's shoulders tense. A vein pulses at his temple like a drum roll. Prosecutor leans in. "Did your son ever admit feeling untouchable?" Janice answers, "Not admit. He celebrated it." That single sentence lands like a grenade. The juror in seat 6 elbows the one beside her. Camera shutters flutter. An empire's foundation lists to one side. And the moment it hits, you can almost hear the gears turning in Diddy's mind, calculating damage control, even as the walls close in. But Janice isn't finished. She pauses, wipes a tear, then looks straight ahead. "My greatest pride was raising a dreamer. My greatest fear is watching that dream devour him." Silence. Court recesses. Reporters sprint for the exit, broadcasting clips that loop until midnight. And while hashtags split between hashtag stand with mom and hashtag protect Diddy, one truth lingers. Sometimes the only blade sharp enough to pierce a fortress is the voice that once hummed lullabies through a nursery door. Fallout. Can a legend survive his legend? Within 24 hours, record label partners pause all collaborative projects. A billion-stream vodka ad is pulled before the weekend. Radio DJs still spin the classics, but they fade the outro early so the call-ins don't derail the show. Revolt Media's board scrambles for emergency capital. One exec is overheard muttering, "We're living the cautionary tale in real time." Fans split down the middle. Some argue the system targets successful Black entrepreneurs. Others say the evidence speaks. Meanwhile, competitors eye the vacuum in hip-hop's top tier. New kings sharpen their crowns. Diddy releases a 90-second video. Soft piano, apologetic undertones, no direct admissions. He thanks his mother for her courageous honesty, stops short of specifics, and closes with, "The truth will set us all free." Comments disable in 13 minutes. Behind the scenes, settlement whispers keep swirling, but there's one negotiation nobody can script: the reckoning inside a man forced to choose between myth and mortality. And that leaves us staring at the million-dollar post-credit question. Closing thought: the echo that won't go quiet. Empires rarely collapse overnight. They erode by inches until a well-timed confession kicks out the final brick. Janice Comm didn't raise her voice today. She simply laid out memories like evidence bags, each one stamped with a mother's heartbreak. Whether a jury convicts or headlines move on, her testimony already landed the heaviest blow. It yanked the spotlight from platinum plaques to the human cost behind them. Maybe the legend rebuilds, humbled and wiser. Maybe the mansion doors stay locked, trophies gathering dust. Either way, a single truth lingers in the hush after the gavel. No amount of fame rewrites the physics of consequence. So next time you hear a stadium chanting an artist's name, remember that somewhere, offstage, a weary parent may be whispering a prayer, hoping the roar never drowns out the voice of reason. Because the higher the spotlight climbs, the deeper its shadow falls. And in that shadow lies every untold story that could one day march into court on a cane, steady its trembling hands, and bring the house down with nothing but the truth.